Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you the best tips and tools to inspire you to create beautiful home decor on a budget. What you guys wanted to see this weekend was more patriotic DIYs. So that's what I brought for you today. I have 6 more Americana budget patriotic home decor DIYs. So with all that being said, let's get crafting. For today's first project, we're going to be making some Americana decor houses. Now I'm using these wood block houses I got from Target, but Dollar Tree has lots of different house shaped options. And then I just am using 4 pieces of patriotic scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. So first thing I'm doing is taking my white chalk paint and I am painting the back side and all the edges with my white chalk paint. The only thing I'm going to leave unpainted is the very front where I will be Mod Podging the scrapbook paper. Once the houses are painted and dried, I am flipping them over onto the back of my different scrapbook papers and just tracing around the shape of the house. Then we will cut our 4 house shapes out and Mod Podge them onto the front of our wood houses. So now applying a little bit of matte finish Mod Podge to the unfinished wood side of our houses. We're going to brush that on, make it nice and smooth with our paintbrush. Then I am going to spritz a little bit of water on the back of the scrapbook paper because it is rather thin. This will help it adhere smoothly to the Mod Podge. So spritz it on, press it down, smooth it out, and then move on to the next house. We'll do this for all 4 of our house shapes. Now once that Mod Podged paper is dry, I'll take my little sander and in a downward motion on the edges, I'm going all the way around to get any of the extra scrapbook paper from the edge and make it nice and smooth. Now you could leave these just like this. I think they're super cute with the 4 different papers. You could add stencils, you could add ribbons or bows, whatever you are feeling. For DIY number 2, we're going to make a small palette flag using one of these rectangular palettes from Dollar Tree, as well as some of these half wood beads, some wood stars, and our chalk paint. So the first thing I'm doing here with my little half wood beads, I believe these are 1 inch in diameter. I'm just lining them up on the palette to see how many I'm going to be able to fit. And it looks like 7 across is what I'm going to use for my full rows. And then I'm going to do 4 at the top 2 rows for the smaller rows that are to the side of the part that will paint blue. So I'm going to use a total, what is that, 22 of these half beads, and we'll paint half of them red and half of them white. So what I have here is I have a long piece of masking tape sticky side up, and so I'm going to press down my 11 half beads that will be red, and then on the bottom piece we'll put the other 11 that we will paint white. This is just a hack that makes it easier to paint the beads without them moving all around. There I was just marking where I'm going to put some tape to paint off the little blue rectangle for the top part of our flag. So that's what I'm going to do here, is just paint these top 2 left sections with my Ocean Waverly chalk paint. So now, like I said, I'm going to take my crimson chalk paint and I'm going to paint the 11 half wood beads that are on the top piece of tape with my crimson. Again, this is a great hack so that they don't move around and you're able to paint the entire surface and then let it dry on the tape as well. So we're going to do 11 of these with crimson and then we'll do the other 11 with white. And now that the beads are painted, we will also paint our red and white stripes on our palette flag. Once everything is dry, we'll now line up our painted half beads on the stripes of the flag. Again, 7 on the bottom 2 rows, and then we'll use 4 beads on the top 2 rows. Once I have those lined up, I'm going to start gluing those down, starting from the middle and working my way out. Then we'll do the red stripe above and then the smaller 2 white and red stripes. I decided I wanted my flag to look a little older, so I'm taking some antique wax and lightly brushing it on to kind of grunge up this flag. You can also see I painted a small wood star with white and glued that to the blue section. So I'm brushing on the antique wax and then using a paper towel to kind of rub it in a little bit. I go back and forth doing this and then also using a baby wipe to take some off and then brush more on until I get the look that I desire. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time today, welcome. I'm so glad that you found me. I hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. I hope everyone will tap the bell. Make sure your notifications are set to all so YouTube should let you know each time I upload a new video or go live here on my channel. And to all of my returning viewers and subscribers, thank you so much for your continued support of my channel. For DIY number 3, we're going to make a real simple palette sign using these Cardboard USA letters from Dollar Tree, as well as 4 5-gallon paint sticks and our red, white, and blue chalk paint. So I'm taking 4 of the 5-gallon paint sticks and I'm lining them up on my mat. You can see I have them going left, right as far as the skinny part, and I'm making sure these are all really nicely lined up and straight on the top and the bottom. Then I'm going to take 5 of these jumbo craft sticks and I'm going to hot glue them to the back of my paint sticks to hold them together. And again, I'm going to start in the middle and then do 4 more just to hold this sign together really nicely. Once we have that in place, we can turn it over and I'm going to give it a coat of my white Waverly chalk paint. Now, I love that I can get these 3 letters for $1.25 at Dollar Tree, but I'm not really a fan of the glitter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off the front couple of layers. I probably should have peeled off more. It would have been a little bit easier, but peel off what you can, or just sand the glitter away and paint over the top paper. But I'm going to peel as much of this as I can, and then using my little sander, I'm going to try and get it as smooth as I possibly can with that layer of paper still there. So I'm going to do this for all 3 of my letters, sanding off as much as I can. And then to get them a little bit smoother, I'm actually going to brush off any of the remnants of the sandpapered shavings, I guess they'd be called. And then I'm going to smooth these out by applying a layer of Mod Podge to the front. I mean, these are cardboard, so I want to paint them, and I feel like doing a layer of Mod Podge first is going to allow the paint to look even better. So take the time, do a layer of Mod Podge on the cardboard letters, and then you'll be able to paint them much easier. And now that the Mod Podge is dry, I'm going to use my same 3 colors of Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the tops and the side edges of my letters. Red for the U, white for the S, and then ocean blue for the A. Now coming back to my board, I'm going to take my black chalk paint and a chippy brush, and I'm just going to dry brush some streaks on my board. I'm also going to add some edging to my letters just to give them a little more interest and dimension. So if you find that you've put more streaks than you want, you can take your sandpaper and sand down or sand away some of the paint you've put on. Now you can see I'm going to take my black also around the edges and a little on the front of my white S and also my red U. I'm going to do the same edging on my blue A, but with white. And now that everything's dry, I'm just going to hot glue my cardboard painted letters onto the front of my palette sign using the paint sticks. And I am leaving a little bit of an edge, you can see there at the top and also at the bottom. And for our final touch, I'm just going to hot glue a little bit of jute twine to the back of our sign at the top. I'm going to wrap it around a few times and then glue it again and trim off the excess. I'm going to do this at the top and the bottom of our sign. For DIY number 4, we're going to make a cute cutting board planter. You can do this for any theme or decor style. I'm going to use this cutting board from Magnolia and a crate from Dollar Tree, as well as the Hobby Lobby scrapbook paper. So using my Crimson Waverly chalk paint, I'm going to give one solid good coat on the outside of my crate as well as the inside. The only thing I'm not going to bother painting is the very back. That's going to be attached to our cutting board anyway. Now taking our cutting board, I'm going to line it up on the scrapbook paper and trace around it. We will cut out this cutting board shape from the scrapbook paper and then Mod Podge it onto the front of our cutting board. And once that paper is dry, we'll take our sander again and clean up the edges of our cutting board to get a nice smooth edge all the way around the edges of the cutting board. Next, I decided I wanted to add a little bit more of a rustic farmhouse look to this. So I'm taking a chippy brush and some white paint this time, and I'm just going around the edges of our cutting board. I'm also going to do some in the middle, you'll see here in just a second. And we're gonna go ahead and dry brush some white paint on our red crate as well. Of course, this is optional. You can leave this out and just do the plain solid paint if you'd like. And now that all our paint is dry, we'll put some hot glue on the unpainted side of our crate and glue this right to the cutting board at the bottom so that it makes a nice little shelf sitter. We can put whatever we want in here, but I also wanted to add a messy bow to the top of the handle. So taking 3 different ribbons, I'm going to cut 2 pieces of each ribbon, and I'm going to do them in varying lengths. So this burlap one I'm doing at 7 inches. The white ribbon with red and blue stars I'm going to do at 6 inches, 2 pieces. And the dark blue with the single stars going down, I'm going to do at, what would be next, 5 inches. So 2 pieces of each, fold them in half, dovetail them. We're going to stack them on top of each other to make our messy bow. Now, one thing you can do if you don't want to hot glue your bows is before you finish tying the knot in the back, loop another piece of jute twine through there and then tie that when you're finishing your knot there. You can trim your excess for your string that you tied your knot with, and then you've got this piece on the back going across that you can use to tie around the handle of the cutting board. You can also just glue it on if you'd like. I'm going to take one more of these little open stars and glue that right to the center of our messy bow. And then you can see I am going to put a tiny little dot of hot glue back there just to hold our bow from flopping around. And then you can put whatever you'd like in here. You could put candy, you could put a candle. I just decided to throw some greenery in there with some white flowers as well. For a complete list of all the tools and supplies I've used in today's projects, click the down arrow next to the title of this video. That will open up the description box where you will find the links to my Magnolia Design Co. website, my Amazon storefront, and also a list for each project of the tools and supplies that I used. For DIY number 5, we're going to make a simple patriotic book stack. I'm using 3 copies of this book from Dollar Tree, as well as a stencil or 2 and some plaster Waverly chalk paint. So I like to look for books that are all one color. The only thing that wasn't an ivory color on here were the words that were stamped into the spine. So I'm using a pretty thick coat of plaster. I'm going to cover up those words, and then I did come back with a second coat, and that did get it pretty flat. You were not able to really see the raised words. I did bring the paint up a little bit on either side, but these were super easy to paint because they were all this solid off-white color. So I'm going to finish painting up the spines for all three of my books. And then I'm going to cut another piece of Patriotic scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to cut this to fit the top of our top book. So putting a little layer of Mod Podge, we're going to spread that out nice and smoothly, spritz water on our thinner scrapbook paper, and press that down. Once I have it down and no air bubbles, I'm going to go ahead and do a layer of Mod Podge over the top, since we will be stenciling on this paper with one of our Magnolia stencils. So I love this stencil called We the People from Magnolia. It's the entire preamble to the Constitution. I was looking for some scrapbook paper that had like some old script writing on it, but I was kind of glad I didn't find it, because then I ended up using this Patriotic shiplap looking paper, and then I'm going to stencil the first half of the preamble right on top using some black chalk paste. Then for the words on the spines of my books, I'm using these summer rolling pin words. I'm going to use USA on the middle, and then I'm going to use the Stars and Stripes stencil, putting stars on the top book and stripes on the bottom. Then to finish off our book stack, I'm just going to take my jute twine and wrap it around the left side a few times. We'll tie it in a knot, and then also add a jute twine bow that I'm going to make just by wrapping the jute twine around my fingers a few times and tying it in the middle. If you're on Facebook, I would love it if you would follow my Monarch Mom DIY Facebook page. I go live there multiple times during the week doing different projects than what I'm showing here on YouTube. For our final DIY for this video, I'm going to make this tumbling tower block cross, and we're going to make it patriotic using this background board, some tumbling tower blocks, our chalk paint, and a small stencil for Magnolia. So the first thing I did is lay out my blocks to form a cross. I'm going to end up using 5 blocks that I'm going to paint white, 6 that I'm going to paint blue, I believe, and no, I'm sorry, 7 I'm going to paint blue, and 6 I'm going to paint red. So you'll see here I'm just making my separate piles and I'm painting my blocks. We're going to paint them on all the sides except for the very back where we're going to be gluing them down. While our blocks are drying, I'm going to take the antique wax and a baby wipe, and I'm just going to darken up this sign, the background of it, and the entire frame. I just wanted a darker brown to kind of contrast with the red, white, and blue of the cross. And I'm also going to use some more of these wooden laser cut stars. These I actually got from Temu and I love them. You get like 100 of them in the bag, and they're really easy to paint, again, when you use this upside down tape method to hold them down while you paint them. Now I wanted my cross to look a little bit more worn, so I am going to take the time on each of my blocks to sand the edges on all 4 sides. I really like how this ends up looking with the final project. Now here's how we're going to lay out our blocks. That would be a good screenshot to take to help you make your own. And I'm starting by gluing down the bottom one, then I can slide all the rest up, and one at a time stack my center column of tumbling tower blocks in order how I want them. You can see how the blue is at the top of my cross, and then also the 2 on the left that go off to the side there. Then once we get all of our blocks glued down, we will add our stars as well. I decided to make a beaded hanger for this sign, so I'm just going to use some natural and white wood beads, and I'm just stringing them on a piece of jute twine. Once I get them all on, I'll tie a knot on the end, both ends, once I see how long I need it. And then I'm going to use my staple gun to staple the jute twine to the back of For the final touch on this project, I'm going to use one of our Freedom Minis stencils. I chose to use God Bless America, but this sheet of stencils comes with 12 different choices. There's lots of different things you could make your sign say, or you could just leave it with the cross, perfectly fine and beautiful like that as well. Thanks again so much for joining me today. Please let me know in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.